So thank you everybody for taking the time to join us. I'm going to go over what the FAS Leadership Growth Program is really briefly because we do have some new people who have joined us in the portfolio as of late. The FAS Leadership Growth Program has been around for well over a decade now, and it's always been designed to be a leadership pipeline for the portfolio. And it's also a way to have high performers and high achievers really identified and become outstanding leaders regardless of where they might end up in their careers. Hopefully they'll stay within UT, but really our objective with LGP is to really make them effective leaders no matter where they might go. The hallmark of LGP are the capstone projects that each of the participants develop on their own. And a lot of great ideas and projects have come out of those proposals and have had a significant impact on how we do business at UT. In the past, around July, we would have gathered to hear these formal proposals, and then we would congratulate all the participants as they graduated from the program. We will not be doing that this year. In April, as the realities of the pandemic set in, the participants pivoted their attention to developing solutions that could help our community during this time of crisis. We will save the individual proposals and the graduation ceremony for when we can all return to campus again safely. Today, you're going to hear two extraordinary projects, the proposals that the current cohort have put together and are already on their way to implementation. In the presentations today, bear in mind, are only previews. For those who want to participate or sponsor the projects, there is much more information and far greater detail that we can provide in some other setting. Each proposal will begin with a short video, about 3 to 4 minutes long, and that will be followed by a few minutes of supplemental information from the presenters themselves for their respective projects. Then we will open comments and questions and discussion among the presenters and the panelists for 10 minutes. I'll introduce these panelists now. We're very honored and excited to have Senior Vice President and CFO Daryl Bazell, Assistant Vice President for Procurement and Payment Services Roy Anasagasi, Director of Diversity and Talent Management and LGP Class of 2019, Binta Brown, Assistant Vice President for FAS Business Services, Tatiana Callahan, Associate Vice President for Facilities Planning and Management, David Darling, and finally, Assistant Vice President for ITS, Trice Humpert. The chat and the QA features have been left open for all of the attendees, and you're welcome and encouraged to use them. If you want to actually have a response back from the participants or the panel, just make sure you put it in the Q&A feature. The chat really is so you can sort of have communication amongst yourselves, but if you want a response from panelists or participants, put it in the Q&A, and we have Francis de la Cruz who is watching those Q&As for us. So before we get started, are there any questions from anyone? I see that there's some chats that have come in. The panelists, do you have any questions? Okay, good. All right, so our first project that we're going to listen to today is UT Swap. It's a program that will preserve investment for our resources. And the genesis of UT Swap was exploring how to help correct the workload imbalance created by the COVID crisis. But it has expanded to be much more than that. The participants who focused on UT Swap are Nate Atkins, Technical Review Team Manager for PMCS, Connie Calvin, Senior Financial Analyst for BFS, John Cano, IT Manager for EBITS, Tiffany Wynn, Hub Staff Associate for Hub and Small Businesses, and Isadora Sanchez, Strategic Support Manager for Utilities and Energy Management. And I'll just be a minute while I share my screen so that we can watch this first video.
Since mid-March, our UT community is dealing with an unprecedented pandemic. COVID-19 has forced canceling merit polls and limiting new hires and large expenditures in response to increasing costs and declined revenue. These cuts, however, are still not enough. More is needed to ensure UT has continued success. During this time of crisis, we have all been asking how to help our community. What if there was a way to share our resources and support each other? Introducing UT Swap. UT Swap stands for UT Services, Work, and Products that connects us with each other to share resources. What do we mean by share resources? Whether you need something or have something to share, UT Swap is where you can connect. You can post non-inventory items on UT Swap that you no longer need and help surplus keep UT resources at UT. On the upside, UT Swap helps your department save money by offering another way to find what you need for free. Did you know that FAS spends about $8.5 million a year alone on office supplies? If just 1% of these items is thrown away, even if it's still in usable condition, that comes to $85,000 of lost resources. Not only does it connect us with physical resources, UT Swap also has the potential to connect departments to share work and services across campus. In other words, it's a great place to promote open positions for recently furloughed workers. By retaining just one employee, it will save UT an average of $16,517. Bottom line, helping our colleagues is the right thing to do, and it's also the smart thing to do. So, if you want to help our UT community and keep our investment, use UT Swap.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany and thank you for watching our video on UT Swap. We are very excited about this innovative communication tool. We know that UT Swap will promote stewardship and cost-saving measures by connecting staff to resources. These shared resources include anything from office supplies to workshare. Moving forward with this project, we are discussing with the Procurement and Payment Services team to take on this project as the sponsor, and we also have several other stakeholders who are excited about the success of UT Swap. Surplus Property and Human Resources are just two.
Yes, Surplus Property is excited about UT Swap because it will reduce the amount of material goods that go directly into the warehouse. Now, Bobby said optimally, he could use another 2,000 square feet of storage space on the main campus, and UT Swap gives him that space virtually by providing the platform for departments to be able to exchange these material goods between themselves before the items ever even make it to the warehouse. And considering the fact that there's such limited space in the warehouse, when you think about it, ultimately, we're going to augment Surplus Properties operations rather than compete with them.
Human Resources is also developing a job sharing policy. They see UT Swap as a way to communicate about job sharing opportunities. They also recently implemented special consideration functionality for tracking Workday to track furloughed or laid off employees. UT Swap could be a platform that connects them with available jobs. UT Swap can also be a platform for HR or other departments across campus to publicize their vacant positions that have been posted in Workday already. There are also other staff working on similar initiatives that could utilize UT Swap. Marcus Hogue, who is another LGP grad, is with T-Rex and has a proposal for staff deployment reallocating talent initiative that matches people's skills to departments who may have a need that was previously contracted out to a third party.
As you can see, we've had many collaborative discussions and have an established framework in place to ensure UT Swap's success. We've also opened a SharePoint site account to house UT Swap and have created a couple of mock-ups to give you a visual idea of how UT Swap will look like.
Overall, UT Swap connects the UT community to resources. It's a social networking platform for faculty and staff to connect and engage. It promotes many of the FAS core values, and I want to specifically speak to stewardship because we're reusing instead of wasting, and we're using internal resources instead of outsourcing. For more information, we have a UT Swap proposal document that dives into the numbers, perceived challenges, technical feasibility, and proposed timeline for the rollout. Essentially, UT Swap is about maintaining our resources. We've invested in our physical resources as a university. We've invested in our people. UT Swap keeps our investment. Thank you for your time. I'd like to open it up now for questions and comments.
I'll get the ball rolling. First of all, great job, great video, great presentation, great set of concepts. And maybe start where I always like to start, which is with the value. So thank you, Nathaniel, for at least calling out the stewardship one. And you're right, when you think about the hierarchy, and Jim Walker can talk about this better than anyone, reuse is always at the top of that pyramid, right, Jim? And that's what you're talking about here. And so, of course, I'll call out some additional values. Innovation, teamwork are ones that also come prominently to mind. So I think this project is a wonderful example of us living our values. A lot of ideas. I like the fact and the way you presented this in terms of how it shows value to the institution. You've quantified the value, not just in a numerical way, but also in a human, very human way, right? In terms of how we can help one another. And so I have a lot of thoughts here, but I know there are other panelists with lots of feedback and good ideas, but I'm really pleased with what I see, and I'm glad there's a vehicle in place to begin to move this forward into operation.
Thank you, Jim Walker. Not only is it on the reuse, but it's also helping another department reduce their spend by bringing something in. So it does have layers of benefit.
Hi, this is Binta. What was interesting, I'm kind of fanatical about the future of work and how, you know, we utilize or leverage our human capital, so to speak. And so I was pretty excited when y'all talked about the job sharing opportunities. And so in an essence, what you're talking about is reskilling and upskilling, you know, rather than laying off or following people. You know, it's a chance, an opportunity to pivot really quickly. And it ties in nicely this whole concept of creating a learning and growing and thriving organization. So I was excited to hear that element of that SWAP. I like the acronym too. So well done.
Yeah, I'm with Binta. I think if we could, I really like the physical things is one thing, but if we could do that with people, not only do you get the benefit of being able to leverage that person in another department, but now that person has seen that other department, they can bring what they know from their department over. You get some cross training, some cross learning, and some understanding about what the pain points are in other areas that helps everybody move forward.
John, do you want to talk a little bit, John Cano, do you want to talk a little about what the discussions that you've had with HR and how that's sort of in kind of in flux right now? Yeah,
so those work sharing opportunities and policies are in flux with central HR. We've met a couple of times to talk about it. And one of the challenges for UT is that because we are such a large and decentralized university, there's not a central HR recruiting who can reallocate people from one place to another. I see a lot of head nodding. There's an agreement. So that kind of structure doesn't exist already to support this, but by creating these policies and then hopefully putting some platform like SWAP in place, then maybe that can support that.
I had the pleasure.
Sorry, Roy.
No, go ahead, David, please.
I would just ask for you to expound on what other challenges and impediments do you see that we can help with that might limit the success of the program?
I'll speak to one challenge is kind of one of our risks is that there are already changes and reductions in force and furloughed workers right now. So the faster we can move on putting this into production, the better. That goes for human resources too. So the faster we can get a policy developed, the better. But we just need the project sponsors so that we can move this forward.
Something that my units have wanted to explore is the idea of an employee exchange program within our units, my 3 units, but also across the different units in FAS and possibly across the university. That work, starting a committee and all that was put on hold due to COVID, like everything else. But if something like this were to get up and running, it's a platform that we can use for something like the program that we envisioned as well.
I certainly support, Tatiana, your comments. I had the pleasure of getting a sneak peek of some of the work the team had done. And in addition to the platform of being able to share resources, and we know that there's commodities that could be leveraged across the enterprise, they captured the benefit of just 1% equaling 85,000 on office supplies, and there's other categories that we could benefit. But on the human capital side, not only with appreciation and respect for the immediate opportunity for employees that are impacted by furloughs and such, but on a broader scale, more strategically and long-term, what Tatiana is suggesting is really what I saw as the greatest opportunity, where we could leverage the workforce and allow opportunity, particularly for the staff that are learning and growing and are excited about dipping their feet into other areas. You know, I welcome the opportunity for people to get a taste of what the world of procurement is like, to see if they like it, or to understand how to better support us from the other side. But if we could do things like that, it helps us to optimize the benefit of the investment of our human capital, particularly on the team members that are eager to learn and grow, as opposed to the risk of not doing that and losing them to other enterprises across the ATX market. But you know, growth holistic within the organization is our greatest opportunity, and not be self-serving. Some of the team members work for me. We want them to grow within, but keeping these folks within the UT 40 acres is our best opportunity to really make tomorrow's leaders shine with some projects, and the opportunity specifically in this one with the swap concept.
So shameless promoting, Roy, for more employees.
You know, and it's not about more employees, it's about dabbling and giving people a taste of something different and recalibrating and creating the foundation for really, you know, the supercharged team. So it really is it's a beautiful concept.
Well, really
letting people be curious.
Yeah, it really opens up a broader conversation around employee development and the kinds of investments we need to make in that to make something like that successful, right?
Yeah.
And of course, at the end of those kinds of experiences needs to be actual opportunity, right? You know, that's the key. There need to be actual pathways to realizing this potential. Let me ask the team, as you looking at sponsors and beginning to grow some of this, what are some of your early ideas? Are we looking to try some of the things on within the portfolio? I hear a very clear interest and desire to scale this to the whole entire institution. What are you thinking around the different pieces right now in terms of how you really want to get going?
Right now, the main thing we need is a SharePoint developer, and yeah, it would be great to have a department take some ownership of this. And we've talked to a couple departments, but is basically the earlier we can get this set up in a SharePoint site ready to be able to do these exchanges, the better. We would start with the physical swap because the HR policy isn't there to support the service and work swap. So once we got that one up and running, then we could continue to kind of expand it out as we look at how HR can support the service exchange side of it. Really, we just need a lot of visibility and promotion from leadership after that.
Connie, did you have something to add to that, or is that what you were going to?
No, I think Nate pretty much touched on everything I was going to say. So
this gets into a little bit of what Daryl was asking as well. There's a question about who is going to monitor all of this. So even when it's up and running, who's going to be running it? Who's going to make sure that the right exchange is being fostered, and just keeping an eye on everything? Isadora?
I can answer that question. The way we envision UT Swap is to be self-moderated. However, we understand from time to time there will need to be minimal updates performed on the site. So we have included in our proposal document, and Connie can speak a little bit more to that regarding the costs. But right now we're looking really, again, trying to promote our resources and using stewardship and our teamwork to look in-house first to be able to moderate this.
Emil, you're muted.
Sorry, there was a comment that I want to try and capture, but I'm going to actually just try and give Juan permission to talk through here. So Juan, can you actually speak to your comment about descriptions?
Yeah, so the thing is, I have a bunch of specialists in my group. So we all have specialists in our areas to do things specifically. So we tend to craft our job descriptions specific to what it is we want them to do for us. And so that could be, it could be a constraint if there's not a mechanism to free that up. And then the other part of it is if we're going to be sharing employees, we also obviously could save some money in the process. It's how the costs could be shared. So there's also an accounting process that has to be dealt with in terms of how that cost is shared.
Connie, go ahead.
I think the key point that we want to bring out is that UT SWAP is not designed to institute or change any kind of policies. The policies are going to exist as they should amongst the departments, amongst the university wide. What we're really proposing here is that it's a platform of communication so that once those policies get ironed out, this is how we share that the opportunity is available so that people can take advantage of them.
Okay, let me check the questions again, see if there's any new ones. This one comes from an LGP grad. How would requests on UT SWAP be sent out to the greater UT community?
I can answer that question. If you give me a few seconds, I'll bring up the UT SWAP mockup so that you can get an idea of how it would look like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Can you all see the home screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the UT SWAP landing page, and as you can see, it works in 3 easy steps. You identify a need. Are you looking for a work shared service, or looking to swap a product? Then you would search for that need, and then you start connecting. Since we want to do a two-phase approach implementation for UT SWAP, we're looking again to starting, as Nate mentioned, with the product platform first. Here's the platform for the product swap page. It would be just a simple page about how the product swap works, the do's and don'ts, important links to the handbook of business procedures, inventory services, and surplus. Here's a button that we envision how it could start the process with the product swap. So once you click on that button, it would take you to another page, and it's pretty much UT SWAP is based on Nextdoor in the Facebook marketplace. So you would go ahead and post a need. Here's the button in the upper right-hand corner, and that's how you get started. So that's the way how people would start to notify or start learning about what kinds of items or job opportunities are available through UT SWAP. And again, this is all being housed through SharePoint sites. And again, going back to what we were talking about, stewardship and innovation, everyone already has access to SharePoint. So it's a cost-effective tool to be able to promote UT SWAP. And then we would be able to get alerts. That's another feature as to why we decided to go with SharePoint site. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think part of what you're saying is that it's really socially driven, that it's about people being active and proactive about finding resources that they need or finding resources they can provide. So the same way that Nextdoor operates, the more people that are using it, the more effective it's going to be. We have time for a couple more. There's some Q&A coming through, but do the panelists have any other comments or questions before I ask those?
One comment, there are currently units and even some buildings that do office supply swaps pretty regularly now. That may be a starting point, reaching out to those groups when you're ready to launch this.
And I just have one more comment, again, on the human capital side of things. You know, what Tatiana mentioned about the employee exchange program, I think it fits nicely into, you know, this model of building a career lattice versus a career ladder. So you can move, you can gain new experiences and really beef up, so to speak, your resume by moving laterally or horizontally. I mean, it's just I like to think of it as the smartphone kind of analogy, where you have apps and you download more apps when you need it, and then you delete some when you don't need it. But again, this concept of growth and development is not linear. It's not a straight up and down kind of direction, you know? So I'd be interested to see how logistically speaking, in terms of how can the process be equitable, you know, so there's fair opportunity and equal opportunities for everybody. And then most importantly, how do you measure the return on investment, so to speak? How do you know that you've hit the mark, that it works well? You know, what does that end final product kind of look like?
So there are just a couple more comments here. One person is pointing out the sort of messiness that's going to be involved with the human resource side of it. And again, that's why HR needs to develop that framework before you can move forward on that side. And then this other question or comment is, as a longer term objective, have you discussed building skill inventories for employees that could be viewed by others? And that would be, I mean, I'll let you answer that, but that's sort of a core part of the human resource side of it, is that you're looking for those skill sets that are transferable. Is that right, John?
Yeah, I could speak a little bit to that. So Workday also has functionality to track, it's called Workday Skills Cloud, where people can essentially, the more skills you add, the larger pool of skills are available that you can add to your profile. So that functionality is out there. It would just be a matter of prioritizing that with EBITs and with human resources to work on the development around Workday's talent modules.
Okay, great. Let's move on to our next project. We're just about at our halfway point here. And of course, feel free to let the questions and chat come in. We'll capture all of that so that the presenters can see that at some point. So just because we're not answering your questions or comments live, just know that they're useful and helpful to us as we move forward. So the next project and proposal we'll look at is Trees to Treasures. It's a program that will generate revenue from a neglected campus resource through innovation and teamwork. This is an incredibly exciting cross-collaborative effort that is long overdue. If you've ever heard that money doesn't grow on trees, you might be surprised by this project. The team members for Trees to Treasures are Dalen Brumfeld, GIS Analyst for T-Rex, Brianna Duran, Campus Environmental Center Coordinator for Office of Sustainability, Ashley Eglin, Site Director for Child Development Center, Casey Moser, former instructional designer for Facility Services, and Linda Tsai, Project Manager and Team Lead for PMCS. And I'm going to again share my screen here, so bear with me for just a minute.
Without having a sort of a dedicated program, I don't really have the resources or the time to properly, market this and do this. It's always been something that's been talked about, and everybody, oh, it's really cool, man. You should do this, that, and the other. It's this really cool thing, but it's also this thing where we never really had the funding and we never really had the staffing to do to its potential.
As the campus grows and new buildings are erected, UT Landscape Services harvests trees that they aren't able to transplant. Enough wood has been harvested in the last several years to build 3 NBA basketball courts, but just 5% of this harvested wood has been utilized. The rest sits unused and wasted in a storage shed on the Pickle Research Campus. Eventually, this valuable campus resource will deteriorate. Texas Trees to Treasures is an opportunity to reimagine this process, to transform this natural resource into one-of-a-kind items that bring a piece of the 40 acres into the homes of UT alumni.
I think it's just inherent that we are important that we try to reuse this resource. I mean, some of these trees are hundreds of years old. They've seen more than anybody will ever see in their lifetime. And to find a different purpose for them after they are removed is important. As important as it is to care for them while they're here.
Through partnerships with local craftspeople, we can use this resource to create unique UT-branded diploma frames, retirement gifts, home and office goods, and more.
My father was an industrial shop teacher at a middle school in West Virginia. So just the idea of working with wood and selling wood products is sort of just a personal preference of mine. And the idea that we could offer something unique is appealing to me on the business side. So I'm anxious to move forward with the project.
Our university has been hard hit by the COVID-19 crisis. Large revenue losses have led to furloughs and an impact on employee morale. Texas Trees to Treasures will bring in external revenue to the university while exemplifying our FAS values of stewardship, innovation, and teamwork. Landscape Services, Office of Sustainability, and Document Solutions will come together to steward our campus wood from the 40 acres into local wood shops and on to new homes with alumni, students, and others in our campus community. Generated revenue could be used to cover budget gaps or fuel future innovations within the FAS portfolio.
On the business side of this, I think there's an opportunity for everybody to gain. So, we might make some money off of it. It promotes the facility side of it. I just think it's a nice project, and frankly, there's little, if any, cost to it, as far as I'm concerned.
What excites me about this opportunity is that we could be kind of closing the loop between people and resources. If people can start to see these resources being, again, repurposed in a creative way, they start to look for other resources that could be repurposed in a creative way. They start to look for other opportunities. And it excites me to think that maybe a student would see one of these diploma frames or get to know the program and think about a creative idea that none of us have come up with, or how to look at textiles differently, or how to look at the glass that this campus generates every week.
University of Texas Trees to Treasures is just the beginning. Together, we can create innovative pathways that re-envision discarded materials as valuable resources to be celebrated.
You never know. There might be a student who comes up with the next big idea in circular economy and resource reuse because of this program, and that's exciting.
Hey everybody, we hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Linda, and we just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are with this project. We have identified some potential vendors, and we've worked with them to develop product ideas and some associated costs. The intent is that these products will bear some type of mark or logo to identify them as lumber that came from trees on the UT campus. We met with Craig Westmeyer over at UT Athletics to discuss the use of branding. And we determined that by partnering with Document Solutions can be the licensee of record, so we can brand these items and make them true collectibles. You probably are wondering what are the financials on this, so we wanted to give you just a quick overview of what we're looking at. Out of the list that the vendors gave us, we picked a basket of 4 items that we thought would be good to start with as a little pilot project. And we thought that these would be popular and relatively low production costs. And just to get a little bit of variety as well. So these items include things like diploma frames, class ring boxes, and other small household items. To keep initial costs low, we propose fabricating between 30 and 50 of each product, and that's going to depend on the cost of the item. And the total cost to produce would be in the $16,000 to $17,000 range. So that would be the upfront cost. Most of that, of course, would go to the fabricator for the design and fabrication of the product, and then some would go to Landscape Services for milling the wood. We assumed about a 50% markup for sale price. That was based on some research we did. And then, of course, there's a licensing fee for branding, and that's about 15% of the sale price. All in all, we're looking at a net profit of around 25 to 30%. And so in dollar terms for this initial pilot project, that would be about $4,000 or $5,000.
And going forward, Office of Sustainability would be the kind of ongoing champion for this program. We're really excited to partner with Document Solutions. They already have an existing online sales platform and they already ship things. So they have the skills and the staffing to do that. So there's very little upfront cost on their end, which is great. We think that Office of Sustainability as the shepherd of the project could help with identifying additional products for sale, continue that kind of collaboration with Landscape Services to get the wood to our vendor, and then continue that coordination with Document Solutions. And what we're really excited about is that this initiative can kind of open a door to rescuing other wasted campus products and turning them into something of value. So another example that was shown in the video, if you could catch it near the end, was taking discarded t-shirts. We received thousands and thousands of branded UT t-shirts every year through our donation drives. And these could be working with a vendor could be turned into other products like duffel bags and blankets, koozies, that sort of thing. So there's really lots of different opportunities. Once we kind of get this pathway sorted out, there maybe more opportunities for bringing new value into the university.
So what might the profits of these funds be used for? So our primary goal is to see this extraordinary resource not go to waste, but we'd also like to see the sale of these products bring in some revenue. Some of our ideas include contribute to the staff emergency fund, the creation of a new FAS innovation fund to promote that core value, and also it could fill in any budget gaps in the FAS portfolio as a whole. That concludes our presentation. We thank you for your time, but we'll love to take any questions or comments you might have.
I'll take a stab at kicking it off again. And you're checking all the value buttons again, just like the last team. What an incredible, innovative set of ideas. It actually takes the concept of swap in a whole other direction, doesn't it? About reusing our assets in really valuable ways. And I've got a lot of comments, but I know other people have a lot as well. Of course, you checked a couple of my boxes. You figured out a way to do this legally. Of course, there's a revenue stream associated with it. As a CFO, I love that. Here's a couple other ideas along with this. I love the marketing idea, and to be honest with you, I think our alum and others would jump at the opportunity to purchase these commodities and maybe even at a higher markup, even though the 23% is a pretty nice margin for something. But also think about, I think some of the most wonderful experiences I see on campus right now is when our carpentry shop reuses some of our wood. And so there may be a number of opportunities on the 40 acres itself. I tell you, there's gonna be a lot of jealous employees when all these things are finding its way out into the open market. And so don't lose focus on what you're doing here. That there's great opportunity to pursue that. But I think there are also a lot of opportunities on the 40 acres itself to develop, some useful products that I think people would be very proud to use on the campus itself. So let me give other people a chance here.
I would jump in. I thought it was a brilliant idea. The name and the brand, the logo, it reminded me of an organization Brianna or others may be familiar with, Wine to Water, that does really brilliant work across the planet. I was ready to go buy my stuff, my items already. With respect to what Darryl was suggesting about how we could leverage resources on campus, I would also add slightly different direction, but if it's needed, there's opportunities where we, from the procurement department, could help you to source high quality suppliers that may help you with your margin while still making good quality products. But I think the concept is brilliant. As I mentioned, I certainly agree with Darryl that I think for a sort of premium novelty item like that, you could probably look at a price point, depending on the specific items, but that could be in excess of some of the margins that you're describing and still have room to grow.
Before we get into another panelist, and definitely want to hear from you, Jim, can you address what Darryl's comment about carpentry and some other things that Darryl has mentioned, and Roy for that matter? I just want to make sure we don't let those comments and questions slip through the cracks.
Sure, I'll address the carpentry shop issue, and I'm so glad you mentioned them because I like to brag on them every chance I get because they are some of the most talented people. They're also in very high demand right now. The shops have really taken on a lot of work that would normally have been outsourced to private contractors. So they're quite busy right now. If there ever was an opportunity to have shop people work on some of these projects in the future, that would be wonderful.
And I'll just add that our first iteration of this program, we were focused on trying to work with the shops. And then, as Linda said, they became so busy and had to really focus on those essential tasks that we kind of pivoted to this other direction.
but it certainly, if they had the time in the future, that would be a wonderful partnership.
I mean, I'll jump in here because as Brianna mentioned, I mean, and as Jim Karst mentioned in the video, this idea has been bouncing around and it's had some fits and starts over the years. So we're excited to kind of see it be refined by the LGP team here and get some more support. But it's really exciting. There's not an endless supply of wood either. So I think once we got a program stood up and you make sure landscape services is whole for the amount of effort they're putting in, and you start seeing this stuff show up, it's going to become even more of a premium, which will add value to it at each step of the way. So, and I think Texas X's would be very interested. I think we have a lot of opportunity with this.
That was a sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I appreciate Roy's comment about procurement helping us understand, get some additional products or source things. Even though our intent is really to use things that are already there or that are essentially other people's waste or trash, there are little things like certain, you know, for fabricating a clock, you have to get a kit that goes with it, or for fabricating, say, a ring box, sometimes you need a hinge set. So there are little things like that that I think we might need help procuring, because the idea is that we supply all the materials to the fabricator and then we're just having them do the labor. So thank you for mentioning that.
Sure, and if I may, my thought is also there's opportunity to compete among the fabrication. So don't give that up, because there's, I mean, in the Houston market, I did it all the time for oil and gas, right? So there's a whole category of companies that, for the type of product, right? And as you mentioned, the concept of the shirts, and I looked like they had like little bags, like little tote bags. So there's a lot of innovative ideas that through a process you may find, even certain boutique companies, right? Not suggesting the mega companies that may be interested in partnering and creating a sort of unique product or concept that could leverage the opportunity for the team in Trees to Treasure.
Well, I've got to get my words in here. I love this idea. I've loved it from the time I got to preview it. I loved it from the time I saw the pile of wood. So I'm really excited that this is getting support, and I think the possibilities are endless with the skills that we have and the people that we have, and so I'm just really excited to put support behind this.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and you know, you might want to think, going down Roy's perspective, you might find an alumni who has a shop that could do the manufacturing for you and might donate it, right?
Yep.
There's
exactly
lots of different things. There's a lot of alumni out there that are willing to help UT be successful in Austin and around the country, for that matter. So I think it's a great idea.
There are also alumni that have trees coming down.
Yeah.
On their own projects.
Immediately, first of all, a wonderful idea. It appealed to my emotional sense, so to speak. So you want me right then. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, can you come plant some trees in my backyard and maybe a tree house for my daughter? That would be amazing. But my mind automatically went to, you know, when y'all talked about supply and demand and this idea of recycling and sustainability, I went back to the human capital side of things, thinking, is there a way that we could kind of create some kind of training or learning development program, maybe work-based learning opportunity, because it could be maybe 16 weeks long. I don't know the specifics, but I was like, perhaps there's an opportunity there, you know?
So yeah, could you guys actually speak to that? Because this is something that you had worked on early on when we were thinking about the imbalance of workload and maybe having custodial come in to do some of the, of course now, you know, that this really is an issue, but at least sort of explain that process that you went through when you considered that idea.
Yeah, so when we were originally thinking of this as a project for the carpentry shop, we knew that they would probably need more labor than they had. And I think at the time, at least, there were maybe some other units that didn't have enough work for people. And I think that even happened where some folks actually went over and started working in the shops. So that was an opportunity for cross-training. And as I understand it, and David can jump in here and flesh this out maybe, but as I understand it, this is something that hadn't really happened before, that we hadn't really had the facilities folks working with the shop folks. And yet there's a lot of similar skills. So, you know, seeing that type of thing happen would be really cool.
So there are some questions. You already have orders coming in, so you better get to work.
I guess, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the conversations we had about fabricating furniture in the furniture shop. One of the key issues, and Jim spoke about this for a minute, and that is that this is not an endless supply of wood, and we need to make sure that we price the commodity based on its value, not only as a piece of Texas, but also its artistic value. And so some of the pieces that can be fabricated in the shop by very skilled carpenters would command quite a premium, but they also demand quite a premium to cover the overhead costs of the staff and also the shop time. And so that's why I think they pivoted a little bit, not only because of the workload, but to the possibility of a more commodity-based start. So, for example, a bench, a very artistic, high-quality bench made from some of this wood, not only consumes a lot of wood, but it also takes a lot of skill and a lot of labor, and it would have a price point in the multiple thousands of dollars. And so, I think they've focused on a really good entry point into this task at a price point we could afford to invest, but also one where we would get a return and then maybe be able to recalibrate on if we've entered the market in the right spot. So I really like what they've done since I last saw it.
So I just want to make a point about that too. There's at least one comment about how long is the resource going to last. I do want to point out that running out of this resource is going to be a good problem to have. Like right now it's rotting. So it's going to be a nice thing when we run out of that resource. And as Jim Walker pointed out, it's not necessarily just about wood. Like there are other things that we can repurpose and reuse. Right now we're focusing on wood, but there are other things that this project could inspire using other kinds of resources. So another question, really a lot of support, just comments. There's one that I'm not quite sure I understand, but it's come in twice. Have wood slats ever been able to be purchased through the auction website? Also, is there a local fabrication school that can use the wood and build the items? I understand the second part, but.
I could suggest, I'm not familiar with Austin Community College as much as I am with Houston Community College, but at that level, they do have a lot of, they may have capacity in their makerspace and fabrication that they teach. So there could be some opportunities to partner there that are worth exploring in the ATX market.
And if I'm understanding the first question, I think the question is whether we could just sell the lumber, the milled wood directly. And I think Jim Kars is in the attendance, and he may know if that's ever happened before. I'm not aware of that having happened, and I think we would lose there's such an opportunity to increase the value of this way beyond just selling it as lumber. So I think that would be very much a fallback.
I just gave Jim access to talk so he can address that. Jim Kars.
Yeah, thanks. We have before, actually. That's probably what the other Jim was going to say. But yeah, we've transacted some stuff to Dell Medical School. We've also done the same with the EER, the engineering building. They use some repurposed wood into their
the Ellsworth Kelly.
Yep. The Kelly building. That's correct. So we've done it. And then we continue to do it. So we did a small little project recently with Wildflower Center, and also with they're doing some improvements to to psychology, to SEA. And so some of this we sell as milled, and if we sell it, if we sell the wood that's already been milled by us, we ask for a price per board foot. But if it's raw logs, we typically donate those in most cases, and that's not wood that necessarily that we would have a good chance to really recoup or repurpose. So we might give away stuff to the daycares to use for the kids in the playground and stuff like that. So it's a huge opportunity. Very cool. Very glad that that our CFO is seeing this. Makes me very happy. And very glad that leadership is getting to see this, David, and so that's wonderful. I'm very excited. Thank you to Brianna and Dalen.
I think, yeah, slapping the UT logo on it and just marketing it as a, finite resource, the price would just skyrocket. It's evidenced by all of us wanting it. I want one. I'm a lifelong Longhorn. I want one. So I think that being the case, you can market this to the X's and name your price.
It's come up before, and just one other note here, because Jim Carson and his team do such a great job of inventorying the trees on campus, when we put the logo on the back, you can also put where the tree came from on campus. So like for Dell Medical School, we were able to label frames there from the tennis courts or from Centennial Park or from, so it again, ups the value.
I love that we could even transfer the little tag over or have that as a little prize.
Okay, well, we have just a few minutes left. Are there any other, I think we've got all of the questions that have come in. There's some really supportive comments and a lot of ideas, as you can imagine, from chandeliers to pens. So we'll try and capture all those as well. Any other comments or last words from our panel before I conclude?
The only comment I would make is I worry about the general public. Doesn't look like you'll get a shot at any of these great products you're manufacturing here.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. We appreciate the panelists making the time to join us and give your feedback. It's very useful information. Congratulations to all of our presenters, and thanks to everyone for attending this afternoon, especially when we're all so busy and distracted with other things. I'm grateful for your support, always grateful for support to LGP. It's an important program. Be sure to keep an eye on the Learning and Development website for updates about these projects and other learning and development programs. And of course, we will keep you posted on when we can gather again to actually hear the individual proposals for these amazing people and congratulate them on their graduating from LGP. Thank you, everyone.